Welcome to Listening Audiobooks, where every word is a step toward clarity, courage, and self-love. Here, we don't just tell stories. We guide transformations. From mindset shifts to emotional healing, every audiobook is crafted to inspire action and awaken your inner strength. So if you're ready to grow, to heal, to rise, hit subscribe, turn up the volume, and let your journey begin. Listening audiobooks, because your next breakthrough might just be one chapter away, where words don't just speak, they transform. If you're ready to shift your mindset, awaken your inner strength, and fall in love with who you truly are, you're in the right place. This audiobook, Love Yourself First, The Art of Becoming Your Own Greatest Ally, is more than just spoken words. It's a journey, a mirror, a movement. So find a quiet space, take a deep breath, and let every chapter guide you back to the one person you've been waiting to meet, you. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and turn on notifications, because every week we bring you powerful stories that speak to your soul. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The Mirror Moment, Seeing Yourself Clearly. Let's begin with a moment that most people avoid. A moment that's quiet, confronting, and often uncomfortable. It's the moment you stand in front of the mirror, not just to check your reflection, but to truly see yourself. Not your skin, not your hair, not the clothes you wear, but the person behind your eyes, the soul beneath the surface, the truth you've been carrying, sometimes silently, for years. This is what I call the mirror moment. It's the beginning of every real transformation. Because before you can love yourself, you have to meet yourself. And not the version you present to the world. Not the edited, filtered, rehearsed version. But the raw, unfiltered, honest you. So let me ask you, when was the last time you looked at yourself? Not to judge, not to criticize, but to understand? When was the last time you asked, who am I beneath the expectations, the roles, the noise? Because self-love doesn't begin with affirmations. It begins with awareness. Let's go deeper. You see, most people spend their lives trying to be seen by others. They chase validation, applause, approval. They shapeshift to fit in, to be liked, to be accepted. But in doing so, they lose sight of the one person who needs to see them most, themselves. You cannot love what you do not know, and you cannot heal what you refuse to face. So today, I invite you to pause, to breathe, to stand in front of your own mirror, physically or metaphorically, and ask the questions that matter. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I believe about myself? What stories have I been told, and which ones have I chosen to believe? Because here's the truth. You were not born doubting yourself. You were not born feeling unworthy. Those beliefs were planted, by experiences, by voices, by moments that made you shrink. But now you get to choose. You get to rewrite. You get to reclaim. The mirror moment is not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about standing in your truth, even if it's messy, even if it's painful, even if it's unfamiliar. And when you do, something powerful happens. You begin to see the patterns. The way you speak to yourself. The way you sabotage your own joy. The way you settle for less than you deserve. And in that awareness, you find the doorway to change. Let me share something personal. There was a time I looked in the mirror and saw only flaws. I saw every mistake, every failure, every insecurity. I avoided eye contact with myself. Because deep down, I didn't feel worthy of love, not from others, and certainly not from myself. But one day, I decided to stop running. I stood there, trembling, and said out loud, I want to know you. I want to understand you. I want to love you. And that moment changed everything. Because self-love is not a destination. It's a relationship. And like any relationship, it begins with honesty. So here's your invitation. Start with 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes of silence. 5 minutes of reflection. 5 minutes of asking, what do I need today? Not what the world expects. Not what your past demands. But what your soul is quietly whispering. You'll be surprised by what you hear. You'll be surprised by how much wisdom lives inside you. You'll be surprised by how much healing begins when you simply allow yourself to be seen. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first, because we've been taught to hide, to perform, to pretend. But discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're growing, that you're shedding old layers, that you're stepping into truth. So let's make a promise. From this day forward, you will not abandon yourself. You will not silence your truth. You will not dim your light to make others comfortable. You will stand in front of your mirror, real or imagined, and say, I see you. I honor you. I choose you. Because when you learn to see yourself clearly, you begin to love yourself deeply. And when you love yourself deeply, you stop chasing love from places that cannot hold you. You stop begging for crumbs. You stop shrinking to fit. You stop apologizing for existing. You become whole. You become powerful. You become free. So let this be your beginning. Let this be your mirror moment. Not just today, but every day. Because the journey to self-love is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. A sacred ritual. A quiet revolution. And it starts with you. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not unworthy. You are a masterpiece in progress. You are a story worth telling. You are a soul worth loving. So look in the mirror. See yourself. And begin. Chapter 2. Breaking the Chains of Comparison. There's a silent thief that robs people of joy every single day. It doesn't break in loudly. It doesn't announce itself. It creeps in quietly, through scrolling, through glances, through whispers in your mind. It's called comparison. And if you've ever looked at someone else's life and felt like yours was somehow less, if you've ever measured your worth against someone else's highlight reel, if you've ever felt behind, invisible, or not enough, then you've felt its grip. Comparison is the enemy of self-love. It convinces you that your value is conditional, that your beauty, your success, your happiness must be validated by how it stacks up against someone else's. But here's the truth. You were never meant to be a copy. You were never meant to fit into someone else's timeline, body, or story. You were meant to be you, fully, unapologetically, and uniquely. Let's pause here. Think about the last time you compared yourself to someone. Maybe it was their career, their relationship, their confidence, their creativity. And in that moment, what did you feel? Did you feel inspired, or did you feel small? Because comparison rarely inspires. It often wounds. It creates a false hierarchy where someone always has to be better. And in that game, no one truly wins. So how do we break free? It starts with awareness. You must catch the moment comparison enters your mind. Not with judgment, but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Why do I believe their success diminishes mine? Where did I learn that I'm not enough? Because comparison is not just a habit, it's a symptom of forgotten worth, a symptom of disconnection from your own path. And once you see it, you can choose differently. Let me offer you a new lens. Instead of comparison, choose celebration. Instead of envy, choose inspiration. Instead of shrinking, choose expansion. When you see someone thriving, remind yourself, their light does not dim yours. Their success is not your failure. Their beauty does not erase your own. You are not in competition. You are in creation. and your journey is sacred. Think of it like this: a sunflower never competes with a rose. The ocean doesn't envy the sky. Each exists in its own brilliance. Each is whole, complete, and breathtaking, on its own terms. So why should you be any different? Your story is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. Your timing is divine. Your path is yours alone. And yes, it may look different. It may take longer. It may be quieter. But that doesn't make it less valuable. In fact, it makes it more authentic. Let's talk about social media for a moment. Because it's the breeding ground for comparison. You see curated lives, filtered faces, edited realities. And without even realizing it, you start to feel behind. You start to question your worth. You start to chase someone else's dream. But here's what you must remember. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's stage performance. You're measuring your real life against their highlight reel. And that's not fair, to you or to them. So take a breath. Step back. Reconnect. Ask yourself, what do I truly want? What does success look like for me? What makes me feel alive? Because when you define your own metrics, comparison loses its power. When you honor your own values, you stop chasing someone else's. Let me share a story. There was a woman who spent years feeling inadequate. She watched others rise, succeed, shine. She felt stuck, invisible, forgotten. Until one day, she asked herself, what if I'm not behind? What if I'm just building something deeper? And in that moment, she stopped chasing. She started creating. She started loving herself, not for what she achieved, but for who she was becoming. That woman was me. And maybe, in some way, it's you too. So here's your invitation. Break the chains. Unfollow the voices that make you feel small. Redefine your worth. Celebrate your uniqueness. Because you are not a copy. You are not a shadow. You are not a second-rate version of someone else. You are original. You are divine. You are enough. And when you stop comparing, you start living. You start loving. You start rising. So let this be your declaration. I release the need to compare. I honor my own path. I choose to love myself fully and freely. Because the moment you do, you'll feel lighter. You'll feel clearer. You'll feel free. And that freedom, that's the foundation of self-love. So walk forward. Eyes on your own lane. Heart open. Soul grounded. You are not behind. You are not less. You are exactly where you need to be. And your journey is beautiful. Chapter 3. Rewriting your inner dialogue. There's a voice inside your head. You hear it every day. It speaks when you wake up. It whispers when you make decisions. It echoes when you fail, and sometimes even when you succeed. That voice, your inner dialogue, is the most powerful influence on your self-worth. And yet, most people never question it. They accept it as truth. They let it shape their identity. They let it define their limits. But here's the truth. Your inner voice is not fixed. It's not permanent. It's programmable. And today, we begin the rewrite. Let's start with a question. If you spoke to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, would they still be your friend? Would they feel supported, encouraged, loved? Or would they feel criticized, judged, and torn down? Because for many of us, our inner voice has become our harshest critic. It repeats old wounds. It magnifies insecurities. It tells us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy. But that voice was not born in you. It was built. Built from experiences, from rejection, from comparison, from fear. And anything built can be rebuilt. So let's begin. First, you must become aware. Start noticing the words you use with yourself. Are they kind or cruel? Are they empowering or limiting? Are they yours or someone else's? Because awareness is the first step to change. You cannot heal what you do not hear. So the next time you make a mistake, pause. Listen. What does your inner voice say? Does it say, "I'm such a failure"? Or does it say, "I'm learning. I'll grow from this"? That difference is everything. Your inner dialogue creates your emotional climate. It determines whether you walk through life with confidence or fear. It decides whether you pursue your dreams or shrink from them. And the good news? You get to choose. Let me share something personal. There was a time when my inner voice was brutal. It told me I wasn't talented enough, that I'd never be successful, that I was always behind. And I believed it. For years, I let that voice dictate my choices. I played small. I stayed silent. I settled. Until one day I asked myself, whose voice is this? Where did it come from? And I realized it wasn't mine. It was a collection of other people's doubts, fears, and projections. So I made a decision. I would become the author of my own inner dialogue. I would speak to myself like someone I loved. I would build a voice that lifted me, not limited me. And that decision changed everything. So how do you rewrite your inner dialogue? Start with intention. Every morning, before the world speaks to you, speak to yourself. Say something kind. Say something true. Say something powerful. I am worthy. I am growing. I am allowed to take up space. These are not just affirmations. They are declarations. They are rewrites. They are reminders of who you truly are. Next, challenge the negative voice. When it says, "You're not good enough," ask, "Says who?" When it says, "You'll fail," ask, "What if I succeed?" When it says, "You're too broken," ask, "What if I'm healing?" Because your mind believes what you tell it most often. And repetition rewires reality. So repeat love. Repeat strength. Repeat truth. And when you slip, and you will, don't punish yourself. Don't shame yourself. Just return. Return to kindness. Return to compassion. Return to the voice that sees your worth. Let's talk about self-talk in moments of struggle. Because that's when it matters most. When you're rejected. When you're tired. When you're doubting. In those moments, your inner voice can either be your anchor or your storm. So choose to anchor. Say, "This is hard, but I'm capable." Say, "I feel hurt, but I'm healing." Say, "I'm not perfect, but I'm progressing." Because self-love is not about being flawless. It's about being faithful to yourself. And your voice is your compass. Let me offer you a practice. Every night, before you sleep, reflect. Ask yourself, what did I say to myself today? What did I believe about myself today? What do I want to believe tomorrow? Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let it become your new language. Because the words you speak to yourself shape the world you walk into. And here's the most beautiful part. When you change your inner dialogue, everything else begins to shift. Your relationships, your confidence, your decisions, your energy. You stop seeking validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop apologizing for existing. You start showing up. You start standing tall. You start loving yourself, not just in theory, but in practice. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the day you become your own encourager, your own supporter, your own source of strength. Because you deserve a voice that lifts you. You deserve a voice that believes in you. You deserve a voice that loves you. And that voice It's already inside you, waiting to be heard, waiting to be rewritten, waiting to rise. So speak. Speak with love. Speak with power. Speak with truth. Because the most important conversation you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Chapter 4. Boundaries, the language of self-respect. There's a word that often gets misunderstood. A word that makes people uncomfortable. A word that's been labeled as cold, distant, or selfish. That word is boundaries. But let me tell you something that might change the way you see it forever. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges. They are not about pushing people away. They are about protecting what matters. And most importantly, boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. Because every time you set a boundary, you declare your worth. You say, I matter. You say, my energy is valuable. You say, I will no longer abandon myself to please others. Let's pause here. Think about the times you said yes when you wanted to say no. The times you tolerated disrespect just to keep the peace. The times you stayed silent to avoid conflict. And ask yourself, what did it cost you? Because every time you betray your own needs, every time you ignore your own limits, every time you prioritize someone else's comfort over your own truth, you chip away at your self-respect. But here's the good news. You can reclaim it. You can rebuild it. You can learn to speak the language of boundaries. Let's start with what boundaries really are. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define what is okay and what is not okay. They are the standards you set for how you want to be treated. They are the rules you create for your emotional, physical, and mental well-being. And they are not meant to punish others. They are meant to honor yourself. Think of boundaries like the walls of a home. They don't exist to keep everyone out. They exist to create safety, structure, and peace within. They allow you to decide who enters, how long they stay, and what kind of energy they bring. Without boundaries, your life becomes chaotic. Your relationships become draining. Your sense of self becomes blurred. But with boundaries, you gain clarity. You gain confidence. You gain control. So how do you begin? Start by asking yourself, what makes me feel unsafe, unseen, or disrespected? What behaviors do I tolerate that leave me feeling depleted? What do I need to feel whole, respected, and loved? Because boundaries begin with self-awareness. You must know your limits before you can protect them. Next, give yourself permission. Permission to say no. Permission to walk away. Permission to disappoint others if it means honoring yourself. Because here's the truth. You are not responsible for other people's reactions to your boundaries. You are responsible for your own peace. And yes, some people won't like it. Some will push back. Some will call you selfish, distant, or difficult. But that's not a reflection of your boundary. That's a reflection of their entitlement. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will resist when you start setting them. But that resistance is not your burden to carry. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose your peace. You are allowed to prioritize your healing. Let me share a story. There was a time I said yes to everything. Every request. Every favor. Every invitation. I thought it made me kind. I thought it made me lovable. I thought it made me worthy. But inside, I was exhausted, resentful, disconnected from myself. Until one day, I realized, kindness without boundaries is self-sacrifice. Love without boundaries is self-abandonment. And worthiness does not come from overextending yourself. So I started saying no. I started speaking up. I started choosing myself. And yes, it was uncomfortable. But it was also liberating. Because every time I honored my boundary, I felt stronger. I felt clearer. I felt more aligned with who I truly was. So here's your invitation. Start small. Say no to what drains you. Say yes to what nourishes you. Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. And remember, boundaries are not just about others. They're about you. Set boundaries with your time. Set boundaries with your energy. Set boundaries with your thoughts. Don't let guilt become your compass. Let self-respect guide you. And when you set a boundary, don't apologize. Don't over-explain. Don't soften your truth to make others comfortable. Just say, "This doesn't work for me. I need space. I'm not available for that." Because your boundary is a sentence of self-love. It's a declaration of dignity. It's a reminder that you are no longer available for anything that costs you your peace. And here's the most beautiful part. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to love you. You show them what respect looks like. You invite them into a relationship built on truth, not obligation. And the ones who truly care? They'll honor it. They'll adjust. They'll grow with you. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the day you stop shrinking. Let this be the day you stop pleasing. Let this be the day you start protecting. Because boundaries are not walls. They are doors. Doors to deeper connection. Doors to authentic living. Doors to self-respect. And you deserve to walk through them. So speak your truth. Hold your line. Choose your peace. Because loving yourself means respecting yourself. And respecting yourself means setting boundaries. Chapter 5. Healing the wounds that dim your light. There's a light inside you. It's always been there. Even when you doubted it. Even when you forgot it. Even when life tried to dim it. It's the light of your truth. Your worth. Your soul. But sometimes that light gets buried. Buried beneath pain. Buried beneath shame. Buried beneath wounds that were never given the space to heal. And if you've ever felt like you lost yourself, if you've ever looked in the mirror and didn't recognize who you were, if you've ever carried a heaviness that words couldn't explain, then this chapter is for you. Because healing is not just about moving on. It's about moving through. It's about facing the pain you've tucked away. It's about forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know. It's about reclaiming the light that was always yours. Let's begin with a truth that many people avoid. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. You cannot release what you won't acknowledge. You cannot rise until you've sat with what brought you to your knees. So today we sit, not in judgment, not in fear, but in compassion. Because your wounds are not weaknesses. They are evidence that you've lived, that you've felt deeply, that you've survived. And survival is not shameful. It's sacred. Let's talk about emotional wounds. They come in many forms. Rejection, abandonment, betrayal, loss. Some wounds are loud, explosive moments that shattered your world. Others are quiet, subtle patterns that slowly eroded your sense of self. But all wounds leave a mark. And if left unhealed, they become stories. Stories that shape your identity. Stories that tell you you're not enough. Stories that keep you small. But here's the truth. You are not your wounds. You are not your past. You are not the pain that was inflicted upon you. You are the one who gets to choose what comes next. So how do you begin to heal? Start with permission. Give yourself permission to feel, to cry, to grieve, to rage, to remember. Because healing is not linear. It's messy. It's raw. It's real. And it requires honesty. Ask yourself, what am I still carrying? What have I been avoiding? What do I need to forgive? Because forgiveness is not just for others. It's for you. It's for the version of you that didn't know better. It's for the version of you that did the best they could with what they had. You don't have to condone what happened. You don't have to forget. But you do have to release. Release the shame. Release the guilt. Release the belief that you are broken. Because you are not broken. You are becoming. Let me share something personal. There was a time I carried a wound so deep I thought it defined me. It shaped my relationships. It shaped my choices. It shaped my voice. Until one day I asked myself, what would happen if I stopped running? What would happen if I faced it? What would happen if I forgave myself? And in that moment, I didn't just heal, I transformed. Because healing is not about erasing the past. It's about rewriting your relationship with it. So here's your invitation. Write a letter to your younger self. Tell them what they needed to hear. Tell them they were loved. Tell them they were enough. Tell them they didn't deserve the pain, but they do deserve the healing. And then, write a letter to your present self. Remind them of their strength. Remind them of their resilience. Remind them that healing is possible. Because every time you choose to heal, you choose to rise. You choose to reclaim your light. You choose to love yourself more deeply. Let's talk about self-forgiveness. It's one of the hardest forms of healing. Because we hold ourselves to impossible standards. We replay our mistakes. We punish ourselves for not knowing what we couldn't have known. But here's the truth. You are human. You are learning. You are evolving. And you deserve grace. So forgive yourself. For the times you stayed too long. For the times you didn't speak up. For the times you betrayed your own heart. Not because it was okay, but because you're ready to grow. And growth requires release. Let's end with a reminder. Your light is still there. It may be buried. It may be flickering. It may be faint. But it's there. And every time you choose to heal, you feed that light. You strengthen it. You let it shine. So sit with your wounds. Honor them. Learn from them. And then rise. Because you are not defined by what hurt you. You are defined by how you heal. And your healing, it's your power. It's your beauty. It's your light. So let it shine. Chapter 6. The Power of Solitude and Self-Connection. There's a silence that most people fear. A silence that feels too quiet, too still, too unfamiliar. It's the silence of being alone. Not lonely, alone. And there's a difference. Loneliness is the ache of disconnection. Solitude is the gift of presence. Loneliness says, I need someone. Solitude says, I am someone. And today, we explore the power of solitude. Not as isolation. Not as punishment. But as a sacred space. A space to reconnect. To realign. To remember who you are beneath the noise. Because in a world that constantly demands your attention, solitude is rebellion. It's choosing yourself. It's choosing stillness. It's choosing truth. Let's begin with a question. When was the last time you sat with yourself, without distraction, without performance, without escape? When was the last time you listened to your own breath, your own thoughts, your own soul? Because self-connection doesn't happen by accident. It happens by intention. It happens when you stop running. When you stop scrolling. When you stop seeking validation outside of yourself. And in that stillness, something beautiful begins to unfold. You start to hear the whispers. The ones that say, you're enough. The ones that say, you're healing. The ones that say, you're home. Because solitude is not empty. It's full. Full of clarity, full of wisdom, full of truth. Let me share something personal. There was a time I feared being alone. I filled every moment with noise, music, messages, movement, because silence felt like exposure. It felt like vulnerability. It felt like facing parts of myself I wasn't ready to meet. But one day I chose differently. I sat in the quiet. I listened. I cried. I healed. And in that solitude, I found something I'd been missing, me. Because when you spend time alone, you begin to remember. You remember your values. You remember your dreams. You remember your strength. And that remembrance is powerful. Let's talk about the fear of solitude. It often comes from the belief that we are not enough on our own. That we need someone else to complete us, to validate us, to make us feel whole. But here's the truth. You are already whole. You are already complete. You are already worthy. And solitude helps you see that. It helps you detach from the need to be constantly seen, constantly affirmed, constantly entertained. It helps you build a relationship with yourself. A relationship rooted in love, not lack. So how do you cultivate solitude? Start small. 5 minutes a day. No phone. No music. No distractions. Just you. Your breath. Your thoughts. Your presence. Ask yourself, what do I feel right now? What do I need? What am I avoiding? Because solitude is not just about being alone. It's about being honest. And honesty leads to healing. Next, create rituals. Rituals that honor your time alone. A walk in nature. A journal session. A quiet cup of tea. These moments become sacred. They become grounding. They become reminders that your own company is enough. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable at first. Because we've been conditioned to equate busyness with worth. To equate attention with love. To equate noise with importance. But discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're growing. That you're shedding old beliefs. That you're stepping into truth. Let's talk about self-connection. It's the ability to tune in. To listen. To feel. To respond. It's knowing when you're tired. When you're triggered. When you're inspired. It's honoring your emotions. Your boundaries. Your needs. And it's built in solitude. Because when you're alone, you're not performing. You're not pleasing. You're not pretending. You're just being. And being is enough. Let me offer you a practice. Every week, schedule time with yourself. Not as a backup plan. Not as a last resort. But as a priority. Call it sacred solitude. Call it soul time. Call it whatever you want. But make it non-negotiable. Because the more time you spend with yourself, the more you trust yourself. The more you understand yourself. The more you love yourself. And that love, it becomes your foundation. So when the world gets loud, you stay grounded. When relationships shift, you stay centered. When life gets uncertain, you stay connected. Because you've built a home within. And that home is peace. Let's end with a reminder. Solitude is not loneliness. It's liberation. It's clarity. It's power. It's the space where you meet your soul. Where you hear your truth. Where you remember your light. So don't fear being alone. Embrace it. Honor it. Use it. Because in solitude, you don't lose yourself. You find yourself. And that self? She's radiant. He's strong. They're whole. So sit in the silence. Breathe in the stillness. Reconnect with your essence. Because your own company is not a consolation prize. It's a celebration. And you are worth celebrating. Chapter 7. Choosing yourself without guilt. There comes a moment in every journey of self-love when you must make a choice. A choice that feels bold. A choice that feels uncomfortable. A choice that may not be understood by everyone around you. It's the choice to choose yourself. Not in arrogance. Not in selfishness. But in truth. Because choosing yourself is not about turning your back on others. It's about turning toward your own soul. It's about honoring your needs, your boundaries, your voice. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when it's misunderstood. Even when it's met with resistance. Let's begin with a truth that many people struggle to accept. You are allowed to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to change your mind. And you are allowed to do all of that without guilt. But guilt is tricky. It creeps in when you start choosing yourself. It whispers, "You're being selfish." It says, "You're letting people down." It asks, "Who do you think you are?" And if you're not careful, guilt will convince you to shrink, to stay silent, to settle. But here's the truth. Guilt is not always a sign that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes, it's a sign that you're doing something different, something unfamiliar, something powerful. Because for many of us, choosing ourselves feels unnatural. We were taught to put others first, to be agreeable, to be accommodating, to be liked. But being liked is not the same as being loved, and being agreeable is not the same as being authentic. So today, we rewrite the story. Choosing yourself is not betrayal. It's alignment. It's clarity. It's courage. Let me ask you, how many times have you said yes when your soul screamed no? How many times have you stayed in places that drained you? How many times have you ignored your own truth to protect someone else's comfort? And what did it cost you? Because every time you abandon yourself for someone else, you teach your heart that it doesn't matter. You teach your soul that it's not safe. You teach your spirit that it must stay silent. But you were not born to betray yourself. You were born to honor yourself. So how do you begin? Start with permission. Give yourself permission to choose yourself, to prioritize your peace, to protect your energy, to follow your truth. And then, practice. Practice saying no without explanation. Practice walking away without guilt. Practice making decisions that feel right, even if they're not popular. Because self-love is not just about how you feel. It's about how you act. It's about the choices you make. It's about the boundaries you hold. Let me share something personal. There was a time I lived for approval. I said yes to everything. I avoided conflict. I molded myself to fit into spaces that didn't honor me. And I was exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Until one day I asked myself, what would happen if I chose me? What would happen if I stopped apologizing for my truth? What would happen if I let go of guilt? And the answer was simple. I would be free. So I started choosing myself. And yes, some people didn't understand. Some walked away. Some called me selfish. But the ones who stayed, they saw me. They respected me. They loved me, not for what I gave, but for who I was. And that's the kind of love you deserve. Let's talk about guilt. Guilt often comes from conditioning, from childhood, from culture, from relationships that taught you that love must come with sacrifice. But love without self-respect is not love. It's dependency. It's fear. It's imbalance. So when guilt shows up, don't run. Don't suppress it. Don't let it control you. Instead, ask it, why are you here? What belief are you trying to protect? What truth am I afraid to live? Because guilt is not your enemy. It's your teacher. And once you learn the lesson, you can release the weight. Let me offer you a practice. Every time you feel guilty for choosing yourself, pause. Breathe. Remind yourself, I am allowed to honor my needs. I am allowed to protect my peace. I am allowed to choose myself. Say it until it feels true. Say it until it feels safe. Say it until it becomes your new normal. Because the more you choose yourself, the more you teach others how to treat you. The more you attract relationships rooted in respect. The more you build a life that reflects your worth. And that life, it's not built on guilt. It's built on truth. So let this be your turning point. Let this be the day you stop apologizing. Let this be the day you stop shrinking. Let this be the day you start choosing. Because you are not selfish. You are sacred. You are not wrong. You are real. You are not guilty. You are growing. And growth requires choice. So choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose your truth. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it's misunderstood. Even if it's hard. Because the hardest choices often lead to the most beautiful freedom. And you deserve to be free. Chapter 8. Building a life that reflects your worth. You've done the inner work. You've faced the mirror. You've rewritten your inner dialogue. You've set boundaries, healed wounds, embraced solitude, and chosen yourself. Now comes the next step. The step that turns self-love into a lifestyle. The step that transforms your environment, your habits, your relationships, into reflections of your worth. Because loving yourself isn't just a feeling. It's a foundation. And from that foundation, you build. You build a life that honors your truth. A life that supports your growth. A life that feels like home. Let's begin with your environment. Look around you. Your space speaks. Your surroundings tell a story. And the question is, does that story reflect your worth? Is your home a sanctuary or a source of stress? Do your daily routines nourish you or drain you? Are you surrounded by beauty, by clarity, by intention? Because your environment is not neutral. It either uplifts you or undermines you. It either reflects your value or erodes it. So start small. Declutter your space. Remove what no longer serves you. Create corners of peace. Add reminders of your journey. Quotes, colors, textures that speak to your soul. Let your space become a mirror of your healing. Let it whisper, "You are safe here." Let it shout, "You are worthy of beauty." Next, let's talk about habits. Your habits are the architecture of your life. They shape your energy. They shape your mindset. They shape your future. And every habit you choose is a vote for the kind of life you want to live. So ask yourself, are my habits aligned with my worth? Do I move my body with love? Do I feed my mind with truth? Do I rest without guilt? Because self-love is not just about what you say. It's about what you do, consistently. Wake up with intention. Speak kindly to yourself. Fuel your body with care. Protect your time. Create. Reflect. Rest. These are not luxuries. They are necessities. They are acts of devotion. They are proof that you believe in your own value. And yes, it takes discipline. Yes, it takes effort. Yes, it takes commitment. But you are worth the commitment. Let's talk about relationships. Because nothing reflects your worth more clearly than the people you allow into your life. Are you surrounded by love or obligation? By support or sabotage? By truth or performance? Because every relationship is either a mirror or a mask. It either reflects your light or asks you to dim it. So choose wisely. Choose people who see you, who hear you, who honor your boundaries, who celebrate your growth. Choose people who don't just love your potential, but love your presence. And release the rest. Release the relationships that require you to shrink. Release the ones that thrive on guilt. Release the ones that drain your spirit. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because your worth is not negotiable, and your energy is not disposable. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to walk away. And when you do, you make space. Space for alignment. Space for authenticity. Space for love that feels like truth. Let me share something personal. There was a time I built my life around survival, around fear, around approval. My space was chaotic. My habits were reactive. My relationships were draining. And I wondered why I felt disconnected. Until one day, I asked myself, what would my life look like if I truly believed I was worthy? And the answer changed everything. I cleaned my space. I changed my routines. I redefined my relationships. And slowly, my outer world began to reflect my inner healing. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't instant. But it was real. And that reality became my new foundation. So here's your invitation. Build a life that reflects your worth. Not just in theory. Not just in moments. But in every detail. Let your mornings be sacred. Let your space be peaceful. Let your relationships be nourishing. Let your habits be intentional. Because you deserve a life that feels like love. You deserve a life that supports your soul. You deserve a life that reflects who you truly are. And that life, it starts with a decision. A decision to stop settling. A decision to stop performing. A decision to stop betraying yourself. And a decision to start building. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. Moment by moment. You are the architect. You are the artist. You are the author. So build boldly. Build beautifully. Build with love. Because your life is your canvas. And your worth is the paint. Let it shine. Chapter 9. Loving yourself through failure and growth. There's a part of the journey that most people try to skip. A part that feels uncomfortable, uncertain, and sometimes unbearable. It's the part called failure. And yet, failure is not the opposite of growth. It's the soil in which growth is planted. It's the teacher that shows you what works, what doesn't, and what you're made of. It's the mirror that reflects your resilience. But here's the challenge. Most people only love themselves when they're winning, when they're achieving, when they're being praised. But self-love that only shows up in success isn't self-love. It's performance. It's conditional. It's fragile. True self-love is unconditional. It's steady. It's present in the highs and the lows. It's the voice that says, "Even now I choose you." So today we talk about loving yourself through failure, through setbacks, through messy progress, through the moments when nothing goes as planned. Let's begin with a truth. You will fail. You will fall. You will make mistakes. And that's not a flaw. That's a feature of being human. Failure is not a verdict. It's feedback. It's not a dead end. It's a detour. It's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your courage. Because only those who try, fail. Only those who risk, stumble. Only those who grow, fall short sometimes. So if you've failed, good. It means you're in motion. It means you're alive. It means you're learning. But here's what matters most. What do you say to yourself in those moments? Do you shame yourself? Do you replay every mistake? Do you call yourself names you'd never say to someone else? Or do you pause and offer grace? Because failure is not the time to abandon yourself. It's the time to embrace yourself even more deeply. Let me ask you, Can you love yourself when the results don't match the effort? Can you love yourself when the world doesn't applaud? Can you love yourself when you're not at your best? Because that's where real self-love lives. In the quiet, in the mess, in the rebuilding. Let me share something personal. There was a time I launched a project I believed in with all my heart. I poured my energy, my creativity, my soul into it, and it flopped. No engagement. No recognition, no return, and I was crushed, not because the project failed, but because I tied my worth to its success. I thought, if this doesn't work, maybe I'm not good enough. I thought, maybe I should stop trying. I thought, maybe I'm not meant for this. But then I asked myself, what if this failure is not rejection, but redirection? What if this is not the end, but the beginning of something better? What if I can love myself here, too? And that shift changed everything. Because when you love yourself through failure, you become unstoppable. You stop fearing mistakes. You stop chasing perfection. You stop needing external validation. You start experimenting. You start evolving. You start trusting yourself. So here's your invitation. Redefine failure. Call it feedback. Call it refinement. Call it growth. And then respond with love. Say to yourself, I'm proud of the effort. I'm learning something valuable. I'm still worthy. Because your worth is not tied to outcomes. It's tied to your essence. And your essence is unshakable. Let's talk about messy progress. Because growth is rarely linear. It's not a straight line. It's a spiral. It's a dance. It's a series of steps forward, steps back, and steps sideways. And that's okay. You don't have to be perfect to be progressing. You don't have to have it all figured out to be moving forward. You don't have to be polished to be powerful. You just have to keep showing up. Even when it's hard. Even when it's unclear. Even when you're tired. Because every time you show up for yourself, you build trust. You build strength. You build love. Let me offer you a practice. When you experience failure, pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't rush to hide it. Don't rush to judge it. Instead, reflect. Ask yourself, what did I learn? What can I do differently? What do I need right now? And then respond with compassion. Write yourself a letter. Speak to yourself like a mentor. Remind yourself of your courage, your effort, your heart. Because failure is not the end of your story. It's a chapter. And you get to decide what comes next. Let's end with a reminder. You are not your mistakes. You are not your setbacks. You are not your failures. You are your resilience. You are your growth. You are your love. So love yourself when it's messy. Love yourself when it's uncertain. Love yourself when it's hard. Because that love, that's what carries you forward. That's what builds your confidence. That's what deepens your wisdom. That's what makes you unstoppable. So fall, learn, rise, and love yourself through it all. Chapter 10. Becoming your own source of love and strength. You've walked through the mirror. You've broken the chains of comparison. You've rewritten your inner dialogue. You've set boundaries, healed wounds, embraced solitude, and chosen yourself. You've built a life that reflects your worth. You've loved yourself through failure and growth. Now comes the final step. The step that turns practice into embodiment. The step that transforms healing into power. The step that makes you your own source of love and strength. Because here's the truth. You've been searching. For love. For approval. For safety. For someone to see you, hold you, understand you. But what if the person you've been waiting for is you? What if the love you've been chasing lives inside you? What if the strength you've admired in others has always been yours? This chapter is not about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you've always been. Whole, worthy, powerful. Let's begin with a truth that changes everything. You are your own home. You are your own anchor. You are your own source. And when you realize that, you stop begging for love. You stop chasing validation. You stop outsourcing your strength. You start standing tall. You start speaking boldly. You start living freely. Because you no longer need permission to be yourself. You no longer need approval to feel worthy. You no longer need someone else to complete you. You are complete. Let me ask you, what would your life look like if you truly believed that? What choices would you make? What boundaries would you hold? What dreams would you pursue? Because when you become your own source, you stop waiting. You start creating. You stop settling. You start rising. You stop surviving. You start thriving. Let's talk about love. Love is not just a feeling. It's a practice. It's a commitment. It's a way of being. And self-love is not selfish. It's sacred. It's waking up and choosing yourself. It's speaking to yourself with kindness. It's honoring your needs without guilt. It's saying, I am enough, even when the world says otherwise. It's saying, I trust myself, even when the path is unclear. It's saying, I love myself, even when you're still healing. Because love is not earned. It's remembered. And you are worthy of it, now, always, forever. Let's talk about strength. Strength is not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of resilience. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to fall without quitting, to feel deeply and still rise. And your strength? It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's steady. It's in the way you keep showing up. It's in the way you keep choosing growth. It's in the way you keep loving yourself, even when it's hard. So own it. Own your strength. Own your story. Own your power. Because you are not fragile. You are fierce. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not lost. You are home. Let me share something personal. There was a time I looked outside myself for everything. For love. For strength. For validation. And I found pieces. But never the whole. Until one day, I turned inward. I asked myself, what if I stop searching and start remembering? What if I stop chasing and start choosing? What if I become the love I've always needed? And that shift changed everything. Because when you become your own source, you stop needing. You start being. You stop doubting. You start trusting. You stop hiding. You start shining. So here's your invitation. Become your own source. Start with your breath. Feel its rhythm. Feel its power. Feel its presence. Then speak your truth. Out loud. Unapologetically. Consistently. Then honor your body. Move it with love. Feed it with care. Rest it with intention. Then protect your energy. Say no when needed. Say yes when aligned. Say nothing when silence is sacred. Then create. Write. Build. Express. Let your soul speak through your actions. And finally, love. Love yourself in the quiet. Love yourself in the chaos. Love yourself in the becoming. Because you are not waiting anymore. You are rising. You are not hoping anymore. You are choosing. You are not surviving anymore. You are living. So let this be your declaration. I am my own source of love. I am my own source of strength. I am whole. I am worthy. I am free. Say it until it feels true. Say it until it feels safe. Say it until it becomes your reality. Because this is not the end. It's the beginning. The beginning of a life built on truth. The beginning of a love that never leaves. The beginning of a strength that never fades. You've walked the path. You've done the work. You've earned the freedom. Now live it. Live boldly. Live beautifully. Live as the source. Because you are not just becoming. You are being. And that being, it's radiant. It's powerful. It's you. Closing narration. The final word, you are the answer. You've walked through 10 chapters, 10 mirrors, 10 awakenings, 10 invitations to return to yourself. You've stood face to face with your reflection. You've broken free from comparison. You've rewritten the voice inside your head. You've drawn boundaries that protect your peace. You've healed wounds that once dimmed your light. You've embraced solitude and found connection in the quiet. You've chosen yourself, without guilt, without apology. You've built a life that reflects your worth. You've loved yourself through failure and messy growth. And now, you've become your own source of love and strength. This is not just a book. This is a blueprint. This is a revolution. This is a return. A return to the truth that was always yours. You are enough. You are worthy. You are whole. Not because someone said so. Not because you earned it. But because you exist. And now, the question is, what will you do with this truth? Will you speak it? Will you live it? Will you share it? Because the world doesn't just need more noise. It needs more people who are rooted. More people who are real. More people who are radiant from within. And that's you. So take this journey and turn it into action. Start the morning with intention. Speak to yourself with love. Say no when it protects your peace. Say yes when it honors your growth. Create. Connect. Heal. Rise. And when you forget, come back. Come back to these words. Come back to your breath. Come back to your truth. Because self-love is not a destination. It's a daily decision. It's a sacred practice. It's a way of life. You are not waiting anymore. You are not hoping anymore. You are not hiding anymore. You are here. You are ready. You are the answer. So go. Live boldly. Love deeply. Stand firmly. And remember, you are your own greatest ally. You are your own source of love. You are your own strength. Now let the world feel it. You've just completed another chapter of Love Yourself First. And if something inside you feels lighter, stronger, clearer, that's not a coincidence. That's your truth rising. At Listening Audiobooks, we believe healing begins with words, but transformation begins with action. So take what you've heard today and live it. Speak it. Share it. Become it. If this chapter moved you, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and let us know what resonated most. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And your journey is just beginning. Until next time, keep listening. Keep growing. Keep loving yourself first.